is November the 29th, 2015. I am in Tucson, Arizona, and I would say it's about 7 a.m. I'm watching an interview with, I'm going to go over and look, actually. Walking. Oh, it's 7:01. I can't believe that. That's so accurate. I'm watching an interview that, I know her last name is Meredith. Oh my goodness, where's her name? Well, she's doing it with an interview from May of 2015 with a gentleman named Stephen Ross. Her name is Regina Meredith. And at approximately 33 minutes into the interview, he's talking about imagination and everything related thereto. And at this particular juncture, he's discussing how the Christian religion probably wasn't the best presented religion at the time, because it basically said you can do anything you want, and then at the last minute absolve yourself. And Regina said in response, she said, I remember being in, what did she call it? It's like school, Sunday school. I remember being in Sunday school and questioning this at the time, saying it just doesn't make sense. And he chuckled and said, I'll bet you endeared yourself to the teacher there, or whatever his specific words were. And at that moment, I had to stop for just a moment, because I had the same experience, but it was a little bit different. It just triggered my remembrance. And my experience was that when I was in Sunday school once, we were talking about feelings. And Sunday school used to bore me to tears. Oh! I would rather sit in the regular church with my parents, and just because it was like theater, even though I still wasn't that interested, it was like it was more interesting than being in Sunday school. Sunday school I felt like I was in regular school, and I didn't like it. I was fidgety and I wanted to get out. On this particular day, when the Sunday school teacher started talking about feelings, I remember being somewhere close to the back and perking up. All of a sudden, she got my attention. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have something to say about this. And I held up my hand, and I told her about this feeling that I had that I called the funny feeling. I don't know if I told her this, and because I was so small and I was really a shy person, the fact that I put my hand up to this day surprises me. So I'm not sure what I said to her, but I used to have this, I called it the funny feeling, because it wasn't a feeling that matched any term for emotions that I'd ever been taught yet. But I always got it when I would stand in the entryway into my parents' bedroom when we lived on Oakwood Avenue. And this was a small little ranch-style home where you go in the front door and everything is kind of like in a circle. To the left would be the hallway for the 3 bedrooms. Now that I think about it, oh my gosh. Just like the house that I'm in right now. They have an entryway that goes off to 2 bedrooms and a couple of closets. We had 3 bedrooms. And they also have their furnace in a closet, as did we. But you go in the front door. To the left would be it's kind of a circular entryway that had the 3 bedrooms and a closet into the furnace room. And if you kind of walked forward, you had the living room on the right, and continued walking, you would walk right into the kitchen. And then again, if you look to the left, the entryway into the bedroom area would exit at that point. So it was a compact little comfortable home. And when I would walk into my parents, they'd stand in the entryway, I'm trying to think what the proper word is for where the door is, the frame area of the door. I would be just washed, almost like a wave of energy would just wash over me, and I'd get this feeling, and I didn't have words for it, and I can feel it, and to be honest, my whole life maybe I've felt it. I could count them on one hand, how many times I still had that same feeling once we moved out of that house. But back then, I used to have it every time. And I almost felt like, it was almost like a feeling I thought at the time that since I could identify with, I must be doing something wrong to get this feeling. Maybe it's a warning feeling because I'm not supposed to go in my parents' room. Or maybe I'm not supposed to go in my parents' room. I don't ever recall them telling me not to. And then I would lay on their giant bed and just feel washed over with this feeling. But it would hit me if I just stood in the entryway. Now I think I know what that feeling is. I think that feeling was love, but not the traditional love. Kind of like the feeling I get when I meditate and I focus on my heart and I feel it expanding. And there becomes this vortex of energy, of love and joy and gratitude that just fills this energy vortex. It almost feels like my body, my rib cage, opens up and it just exudes out. It's that palpable. And that's what I think. Not only do I think, I feel, I know, I believe I was triggered to finally get it. That the funny feeling was me accessing my vortex of energy, my higher self, my connection to source. But because I didn't have a way to describe it, I just felt it. And because that feeling didn't fit into any box, I eventually I don't want to say I was afraid of it, but I thought it was not appropriate, it wasn't acceptable, so I would avoid anything that would bring me that feeling in that house. And I probably, I could go on, and I'm just pontificating here, so it could be that I just had such pure, overwhelming love for my parents at that young, tender age, and we moved out of that house by the time I had finished second grade. By third grade, we lived in our house on Tillotson. But I remember being even smaller, probably 4, 5, 6, 7 at the most, going to Sunday school, young enough that being as fidgety as I was, my parents didn't want me in the main church with them because I probably would have distracted people. But, unfettered in that environment, I probably just had such overwhelming love for my parents that I equated it to that room because that was where their things were. That was them, to me. It wasn't diluted by, they could be in the other rooms. Their things could be in the other rooms, but the other rooms had other things. I identified it with them and as such felt this overwhelming feeling. Or it could simply be that maybe it was a vortex and that was the entryway into the vortex of that energy. And the reason I even want to consider that is because unbeknownst to anyone, no one knows this. No one. I think my mother caught me in there once, but she doesn't know that I kept going back anyway. At least if she does, she never told me. So I will presume that had she known, I would have gotten pulled out of there a lot more often than that one time. But I used to go in the furnace room all the time. It was completely pitch dark in there when you would close the door. But I liked it. And I either put a little stool in there, but I don't really recall that. It seemed as if there was a stool in there. A teeny tiny little stool made perfectly for a person of my size. And I would pull the stool in front of the furnace, and I would open this little door. And behind that door, you could actually see the flames of the furnace burning. There were flames. And I knew not to touch them, and I knew that it was dangerous, and I wasn't supposed to be in there, but it was mesmerizing to me. I could sit in there like watching the flame on a candle for what felt like infinity. It could have been, 30 seconds to a, 4-year-old's mind. I don't know, but it felt like it was hours, honestly. And now I believe, looking back, it was a meditative state for me. And so I was self-meditating when I was a mere baby, not realizing it, understanding that there was potential danger, but being able to look beyond that and see the beauty and the majesty and the peacefulness and the calm and the beauty. So I can imagine that if I was that kind of a mind back then as such a young person, that I could be captivated, endlessly entertained by the flame in the furnace, that it isn't much of a reach to consider that I was standing in an energy vortex that I could actually feel the frequency or feel the vibration of, because I was a match for its frequency, when no one else in the house felt the same as I. That makes me feel filled up. So thus, I shall not close.